Welcome to the Country Living Podcast. Join us as we explore the stark contrast between tranquil country living and the bustling, sometimes harsh realities of city life. We'll dive into stories and experiences that shape our understanding of these two worlds. Get ready to journey from peace and serenity to the vibrant, chaotic pulse of city streets. Let's see what life has to offer in both realms.
All right, man. So let's go ahead and kick it off. What we want to first, one thing we want to talk about is this. So, Marcus, you've been living in the country for, you said, about 6 years now, but you kind of grew up in that area.
Yeah.
Moved to Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the big city. And I actually thought you was always. You know what? I always thought you guys were in Birmingham. I also thought that Apocalypse Ministry was somewhere in Birmingham the whole time. 'Cause every time you have the camp meeting, it's near Birmingham. So so I always thought, I thought the place that we had the camp meetings was Apocalypse Ministries. That's what never dawned on me that you was living in Fayetteville and that Apocalypse Ministry is in that area. Never dawned on me. So not until you told me when we were at Monica not Monica's. Was that Monica's house? Not Monica's house. Maurice and them. Maurice.
Maurice. Mason.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. When we were there, that's when you told us, like, whoa, wait, he don't live in Birmingham.
Oh no.
What was that transition like? Tell me a little bit about how you guys went from one spot to the next spot to the next spot.
So my mom and dad were looking for country property back when we were in high school, and that whole every weekend we weren't doing anything but, especially on Sunday, going to look for property, and they did that for years. And in 1988. The property where we are now, my dad bought this property in 1988, and we moved out here, and I was in 10th grade. So it was a transition then for me in high school. When I lived in Huntsville, I was 10 minutes from Oakwood. Now I'm 45 minutes.
You guys are leaving from that area in Fayetteville area, Tennessee,
coming to school every day. So when you were seeing me in high school, I was driving from Tennessee every day.
That's something brand new to me. I literally thought you guys lived around the corner from the academy.
Yeah, we live pretty close for sure.
Yeah, your dad used to teach us woodwork.
Yeah.
So
we're always trying to find some country property. When they did, we moved, and that was a bit of a transition. But honestly, that transition wasn't hard because friends of mine who I was close to would just come out here and hang out and believe it or not, they started coming out here and didn't want to go back home to the city. They came out here to the country and liked hanging out in the country. And man, can I just stay till Monday and I drive home and then I can, And so we did that, and we graduated, a couple years of college, got married. Jobs were better in Birmingham, so we moved to Birmingham after getting married for a few years, and we stayed gone 13 years.
Oh, wow.
And then, that's when the Lord called us back for ministry after Dad passed away. So for me, it was like coming back home, so to speak. I was already used to being out here. I'm used to it being dark, quiet. None of that stuff was a bother for me. I was used to having gardens. Mom and Dad always had a garden. So a lot of that stuff for me in that regard was like coming back home.
Right.
And so it wasn't as hard of a transition for me. It was more of a transition for my family who had never lived in the country. So, coming and it being no streetlights outside was a thing for my wife and kids. They want to get on inside before it get dark, and you don't come back out till in the morning. But it took a little while. They got used to that and they moved on. But other than that, the transition was really all good for them. My wife liked it being quiet, not a lot of people around. She got used to the dark and the quiet, and then she fell in love with it. Then she transitioned into getting into gardening almost as soon as we got here. It's like the Lord really was leading her to yeah, get the garden started, get the root cellar going, get the greenhouse up. Like she was really pushing, whereas I was used to it, but I was kind of taking my time, and I had my sights set on the ministry, so I was busy with that. But the Lord had her pushing. And the Lord really told me, get behind her and help her, give her what she needs, make sure she has it so that she can go forward with what I'm telling her to do. And that's kind of how the transition went. You know, for them, they weren't used to seeing deer in the front yard
Wow.
and seeing turkeys run across the yard and seeing foxes run along the fence line and stuff like that. So they fell in love with the deer, and that was short lived until they realized the deer will eat up your food, even if you're not careful. So then they got tired of the deer, and but that's how the transition really kind of went. Wasn't too hard. It was more about getting to the country and then learning the lessons that God began to teach. That's where things started to take a turn, not for the worse or anything, just a turn for, oh, this is why we do country living. Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up your wife because, of course, she grew up in the city as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she took on to being like super duper dope gardener. And yeah, I mean, having her own little like platform and showing others how to do, and that's major, right? And
Yeah.
having a love. And the thing about it is, I guess you'd never know what your talents can be unless you get out of what you're so accustomed to. All of a sudden, God shows you had like a whole hidden talent. And I'm sure that's exactly what she has, because she kind of skyrocketed.
I mean, she fell in love with it. And I'll be honest, for me, it was like, is this the girl I married? Like, before we got here, she was not putting her hands in dirt to plant flowers at the house. It was, get somebody else to come do that. I don't have time. I'm busy. She worked a corporate job. She was traveling and doing all that sort of stuff. And so we get here and she's like, hey, we need to get a garden. I want to get some raised beds. And I'm like, really? You? Okay. But she wouldn't let it go, and that's where the Lord was like, "Hey, don't be no stumbling block. Don't
Get behind her.
start questioning. Don't start putting fires out. Just get behind her. Whatever she's asking for, get it." So that's what I did. So it started off with raised beds, and it went into gardening. Then she got the greenhouse. Then there was a big outside garden. It just kept growing, and now she says herself, I've been missing out on this my whole life. I never knew it was like this. Now she's like, I can't imagine not gardening. When we go out of town, her first question is, who's watching the garden?
Right.
I need somebody to check on it, water it, make sure it's good. We can't be gone too long. We need to get back. So that's her priority now.
That's a whole nother baby. It's a whole other
other thing, man.
Yeah, it's a whole other family member.
Thing. Yeah.
Enterprise, really.
Yeah, it is an enterprise. So Harold, you also came from the big cities. Want to talk about your transition as well? Like, where did you come from, and at what point did you know that this was when you and your wife had to make that move?
Well, my story is very different from Marcus's.
Yeah, well, Marcus kind of grew up and then bounced out, but came back. That's a whole different thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
but that's a testimony, because a lot of people have property in their family that they could probably move to if they actually check around or ask around or want to. But me, I came from Newark, New Jersey, right across the bridge from New York, and I didn't grow up in the church. I didn't grow up Christian at all, pretty much. My mother and father were both believers, but I was not. So I was basically atheist by the time that I was a teenager. But here's the thing, and this is what I always tell people when we talk about country living. Why do you actually want to move to the country? And they'll give you all different types of reasons. Time of trouble is coming, or buying and sell is going to be a serious problem. Like, at the root of why we moved to the country is because God told us to move to the country. And if God is the one who told us to move to the country, then God has a way for you to get to the country. Now, even before I became Christian, there was just something in me about being in that type of environment. I don't know. I used to have this dream about, of course, getting wealthy And I would always tell, my cousins and friends, when I get my money, I'm going to buy me some acres. I'm going to have me some water. And I'm going to be chilled in a nice country environment. So even before I came into the faith, God had already put it in me to want to be move to the country. And so step by step, God led me into the truth. I won't go through all those details. But then, out of the cities, when they were traveling around early 2000s, and a friend of mine, by this time I'm in the church, of course, a friend of mine goes out to the meeting, and then I go to the next one, and I realize that God wants us to move to the country. And of course, from years ago, it resonates with something in me. And so I'm like, great. I always wanted to move to the country. That must have been God from the beginning. And so at this time, I wasn't married. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't married at this time. So me and my wife were courting. And, I don't want to go too much into that either. but for her, I was taking too long. That's another conversation. But, women have a way of testing the waters on you. You know what I'm saying? And she called me one day to ask for my social security number.
Wait. That's deep.
We had been dating for a few years now. It's been a while.
Okay.
But it was so she could see if we could get a loan to start looking for some property, even before we had got married. And so I gave it to her, and I saw what we got approved for. And here's the thing when you talk about God and his providence. Now, our moms had never met. You know what I'm saying? Our moms had never met. She came up, her mom came down here for the 4th of July. And God had put in my heart the date for our marriage. And so the day our moms met, I announced the day of our marriage. And the next day we had already planned out to go looking at properties. Now she had one property on the list that was well above what we got approved for. And I was like, why are we going to look at that? That's like a price range, you know what I'm saying? But she was like, it don't cost nothing to look. You know how they prod you and get you to go. But
that's true.
We went, and our moms decided they were going to go with us. And so we come to this property, and cutting to the end, it's the property we living on right now.
Wow.
I had never seen something that beautiful. It was beautiful, man. I mean, it seemed like everything was glowing. It actually had a lake on it, private lake on it. Remember I said I wanted to have water on the property?
That's crazy because that's exactly what you dreamed about.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's like we be thinking that we want to go to the country when really it is God who wants us to go to the country.
Right.
And if God wants us to go to the country, then God will make a way for you to make it to the country. Doesn't matter what's in your hand and what's in your pocket. See, I was only looking at what the bank said they would give us. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
I'm not moving by faith. I'm moving by sight. I'm thinking I'm moving by faith because God told me to move to the country, and I'm gonna move to the country.
Right.
But really, I'm moving by sight. So the property was like 5 figures, and I'm not talking about $10,000 5 figures. I'm talking about closer to 100,000.
Yeah.
Above what
above and beyond what the bank was supposed to give to you guys.
Yes. And do you know, because her mom came with us, her mom had 2 houses, and she sold one and gave us the difference.
Wow.
So because we had already planned to go look, it just so happened that was the weekend our moms were going to meet. And when I announced the date, they decided to go out looking with us. And it was her mom who kept pushing, what about that property? What about that property? I'm saying we can't afford that property.
The same, exactly.
But over time, it kind of just worked. And we've been here now since 2009.
Wow.
Now here's the thing. 2008 was the big
crash. Yep.
Thank you. So the banks wasn't even giving loans out really.
Because they were afraid, because that was the whole reason for the crash.
Exactly. That was the reason for the crash. However, it actually made the property a lot cheaper than what it would have been. And we still got the loan. So all these obstacles, and we both worked in Atlanta at the time. We both had jobs. And the property is about an hour and a half from Atlanta. So we started driving an hour and a half. That's what it. What it was.
But that's Atlanta anyway. You can live 15 minutes from the job and still have to do an hour and a half in traffic. So
say it again.
Right.
So, but either way, over the years, I came away first, so we could start doing some stuff on the property, and then right when COVID hit, this is funny again, bro. We had decided that it was time for her to leave because, again, the property is beautiful. Like I said, it has a private lake, has the house that we live in on it, but she wanted to do medical missionary stuff. So it also had another double wide trailer on it already. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So it was like the place was set up. And it's so many testimonies I could tell you about it. It was a older Caucasian couple who owned the property. And they had the property was sold. It was already sold. But at the last day, the person backed out. I'm talking about they were supposed to sign. They were supposed to sign the papers. Somebody backed out.
That always happens. That's how
the man was a Christian. The man was a Christian. He said, "I've been praying that God would bring the people who this house was for." And he said, "I saw y'all step out of the car. I knew it was y'all." So
that is crazy.
They left lawnmowers. They left sheds, like 7 sheds and all this stuff. I mean, he just started giving us stuff, appliances, stoves, refrigerators. They left all types of stuff. We were still finding stuff that they left years later.
What it says,
generator.
What does the scripture say that's laid up for the something of the wealthy is laid up for the
or even what he said to the Israelites, I'll give you this that you haven't planted and this that you haven't done.
Right.
They actually showed us the property before they got here. They cleared off a bunch of trees. It's a fence around 5 acres of the property. It's a swimming pool on the property. My wife, she would always lament because of modesty reasons that she couldn't go out and go swimming. And there was a swimming pool on the property.
On the property. With the lake.
With the lake. So I'm trying to tell you, it's not us who are trying to move to the country. It's God who is telling us. And if you will just make the move, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then he'll start to open up the way. We always want to see how it's going to happen before we start making the move.
You said make the move. The move you made was a small step by just saying, "Hey, let's go take a look at the property."
That was it.
Yeah.
That's the small step, And then once that little lint ball or that little rock starts to roll off the mountain, it just kind of become a bigger. It just becomes this avalanche before you know it. You're like, yo, I didn't expect all of this. We just came out here for a little look, see what, but once you go out and start driving around and you start looking and asking questions, all of a sudden God plants into your heart exactly the feel of being outside the city, and then you start to think about all these other things. For me, what happened was when we started doing, I'm gonna say this, Marcus, we had Bell Towers Ministry.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I was a part of the Bell Tower Ministry crew, and every Friday night, that was a big thing for me. Like, Bible studies on Friday night was a big thing for me. So when I left and came back, it was like a couple years. It was more than a couple years, but by the time I moved to Texas, I was living in Texas for a while. And we started doing the whole Friday night Bible study thing. I kind of kept that going and going and going. By the time I'm married with kids, I've always wanted to do, have that worship time, because I felt that Sabbath is here and that's how we ought to be together and have worship, right? So I used to invite people to the house. Like, hey, we're going to have worship this Friday, Bible study, come on over. And people started coming over. They would come over for Bible study. And we at one point had about 25 to 30 people at the house for Bible study every Friday night. We'll average a good between 15 and 20 people, every week. And then what happened was, all of a sudden, Facebook and YouTube used to start going live, and people realized, wait, I can do this from home. So they kind of went to their house, right?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we had a discussion one Friday night, And we were reading through the book Adventist Home and Country Living. And we also had another book. Well, no, we were reading through Country Living, and this epiphany hit me. Was like, hey, how about we just create a committee? There's a lot of us that worked together for Mount Carmel Ministries. We were part of the whole ministry. We had quite a bit of people, and we said, well, why don't we just create a committee, a Country Living committee that will go out and just start, looking around for some property. Mm-hmm. So we looked around and was like, yeah, maybe about 8 of us can do it, start looking around for some property. And that's exactly what we did. Anyway, I came home one afternoon from work and I checked my mailbox, and in the mailbox was this flyer for something called Jasper Highlands. And I looked at this thing and it was like, I was like, man, where's this place at? On a mountain, you had the views, and, and they were selling lots and stuff like this. So I told my friends, I said, listen, man, look at this flyer. They said that we can come out and check it out, for free. Let's go check it out. Let's go, because we were already driving around and looking for property. So we ended up taking a weekend. They said, come for a weekend. We'll put you in a hotel and you guys can check out our property. And we did just that. We went.
They put you all in a hotel?
Yes, they paid for the hotel. They paid for everything. And it was about 4 or 5 of us. 6 of us, actually. 6 of us, because my wife, two other couples, and my buddy John. And, so we all 7 of us, actually. They put all of us in a hotel. And they took us up the next day. We drove the next day up to the place on a Sunday morning. And we get there and we're in awe. Man, I'm telling you, this place is amazing. Now, Marcus, this place is in Jasper, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And when you're in Jasper, Tennessee, you have all these mountains surrounding you, right?
Right.
And then you have the lake. You got Nickajack Lake on, you can see Nickajack Lake, the Tennessee River. And I mean, it is gorgeous up there. Immediately, we said, you know what? This is it.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yes.
So she says, what you guys can do is just put your earnest money in today and let's get ahead and sign the contracts. Let's go for it. And that's exactly what we did. That's exactly what we did. And we walked down and we had no money. There was no money really in anybody's account for no earnest money, but we paid up $1,000 each family, and we gave her a check for for $1,000 each because that was the earnest money there. And we walked away feeling good about ourselves. We were over there fist bumping and high fiving and praising God and like, man, we got some country property in the mountains. And we went home, and throughout the week, a week had passed, and my buddy called me. He says, Larry, I had a dream that God doesn't want us to be up there because that's a subdivision, and you had to buy the property. You had to make sure the property that you put was fully paid for before you can build a house. He says, Larry, this is not what God wants for us. And I listened to him. And I said, you know what, you're right. So we had a meeting. Now, mind you, a whole week has passed. Now, once you give your earnest money for 3 days, they cash it.
That's it.
You're locked in.
It.
Right? That's it. Yeah. A whole week had passed, and we had the meeting, and it was kind of like pull straws. And I drew the short end of the stick, and they were like, "Well, you need to call them and tell them that we need
to." Yeah.
You need to be that guy. So I called the next morning, man. I called on the phone, and the lady's name was Pam, I think her name was. And I called her and she says, hey, how you doing? I said, I'm doing well. And we started talking. She just came out of the blue. She says, let me guess, you guys want your money back? I said, yeah. She goes, yeah. And I'm gonna tell you why she said that is because when we were up there, we were telling her why. She asked us questions as to why you guys are all looking for country property. So we kind of told her, shared them with her. So she goes, you guys want your money back? I said, yes. She goes, well, we never cash you guys checks. So tell you what, we'll go ahead and reimburse you or refund you back your money. And you guys can go look for exactly what you need. You need, property that you can have that belongs to you, that is, you can do what your own thing, you can build when you want and grow your garden. I said, yes, it's exactly what we're looking for. So soon as we did that, she gave the money back. God put another person in our lives that said, hey, I heard you guys are looking for, country property. She gave us a whole list. She says, my business is all about country properties, and it's Tennessee mountain properties. And she says, I've got a list of properties for you guys. And we didn't take no more time to jump. We just jumped. I said, well, take us around. She says, give us the first 5. And we give her the first 5 properties. We went on a Sunday and looked at all the properties that we can look at. And it was about almost time for sunset. And she goes, I have one more property to show you guys. It's off the beaten path. It's a little rugged. It's 50 acres, but I think you guys will love it. I said, well, let's go. I mean, the sun's about to set. We want to see it before the sun sets. Let's go. And we went to that place. And as soon as I get there, we walk to the bluff. It was on top of the mountain. We walk to the bluff, and I'm like, oh man, this is serene. And while I'm saying that, I'm hearing this flow of water. And I'm saying I said, hey, is there water down there? And she goes, yeah, it's a year-round creek that flows year-round. I said, how can we see that? She goes, well, let's take a little hike. We took a little hike, guys, and we get down there. I put my face into that cold water. I put my hand there. I drank that thing. I said, this is delicious. How much for this property? And she goes, it's 50 acres. Watch this, 50 acres. She says it's $87,000. I said, 87,000. I said, nah, this can't be. It has 4 caves on it. It has a waterfall. It has not one waterfall, but 2 major waterfalls. It has underwater, the ground, underneath the ground has water flowing underneath of it. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, this is $87,000? She goes, yeah. I said, can't be. But anyway, my friend looked at me. He goes, Larry, what do you think? I said, this is it. Let's put a contract on it today. Yeah. So we end up calling the owner, and the owner talked to us about everything. And she says, yes, $87K. And she said, what would you guys like to, what's your offer? We said, well, how about $67,000? She goes, let me think about that. 2 days later, she comes back and she goes, how about $77,000? And we said, okay. It's right dead in the middle. We wanted 67. It's in the middle between 87 and 67, so that's fine. So we went with that, and then by the time it was supposed to close, she was supposed to have a survey done. The survey was done, and it came back that the property was only 40 acres and not 50. And she looked at us and she goes, do you guys still want the property? We says, yes, we do. We still want the property. She says, well, give me your offer because we have to change the offer. We know that it can't be the same price. So we said $65,000. Yeah. She says, well, how about we just meet in the middle? How about we just say $67,000?
First offer, right?
That was the original offer. That was the original offer. We paid $67K for 40 acres. Down to this 40 acres is now worth almost $400,000 today. Wow. Okay. Wow. It's off-grid property, and I mean it's gorgeous, right? There's a lot you can do with it. And come COVID now, this is 2016. Come COVID now, 2020, I told my wife, I said, look, honey, we need to go and build on this property. We cannot be here in Atlanta any longer. We got to go. So she's ready to go. We're looking all between the September to December, we're looking for lumber. We're looking for places that we can build. And lumber was all the way up during COVID. We could not find any place to help us build. This one place told us that, hey, we can put it for you, but turnkey, we're only putting the frame up. You have to find somebody else to get the rest of the stuff done, sheetrock and all. And I'm like, man, okay. Then On top of that, people stole our chains. They stole our stuff that was on the property. And I told my wife, I said, babe, we cannot live in Atlanta and expect to build out there because they will take everything from us. So how about we rent a place up there and, while we're building, we can be there to keep eyes on things. And that was the plan. So we came up one Sunday to look around for a rental place. I called my friend Angel. I said, Angel, I'm also looking for another place to rent, and she says, well, we'll take a look at some things. We get to the place that we are today. We drive into, where we live now, Marcus, that long driveway. We come down that driveway. I look around, I looked at this house and I said, this house is for sale. And I just turned around and I kept on, I said, babe, let's just keep on driving. Just left it alone. Didn't think nothing about it. But then the Holy Spirit just pricked me. So I called Angel. Angel, there's a house. It's right off the road. I don't know how many acres it is, but it's for sale. Can you find out what the house is all about? She says immediately. I know the owner. So she went, talked to the owner. She called me the next day. She said, Larry, they're willing to have you come and look at it right now. The house has been it's been for sale for a whole year. A year and some months. And I'm saying, nobody looked at this place? Nobody wants it? She goes, you'll be surprised the kind of property it is. So if you want to check it out, let's go. So my wife and I went back. My wife says to me, don't like it. I said, honey, this is it. This is it. This is what I had in my dream. This is the home. She goes, well, God never spoke to me about this place.
Okay.
I'm going to pray about it, but God never spoke to me about this place. I said, all right. We walk away and we went and looked at other places, and all the other places we looked at kind of fell through. We didn't really like it. She liked in one place, but the one night we went to go look at another place, and Angel calls us and says, listen, no, actually the owner calls Angel while we were looking at another place because Angel was with us. And the realtor Angel, she said to us, she says, hey, I got the owner on the phone. He wants to know if you guys want to buy the building that's on the frontage. There's a building. I said, what building? Mm-hmm. She said, there's a commercial size 1,500 square foot building that he wants to know if you guys want to get that as well. I said, there's a building on the property? She says, yeah. As soon as you come into the driveway, there's a building on the right. I said, I didn't even notice that. But yeah, we would like to see that building. Is that okay? She says, oh, he also wants to know if you guys want to have the 2,500 square foot garage as well. Can I take a look at it? She goes, yeah. Would you know the next day we looked at the place and it's in daylight. I can actually see things, right? And I'm looking around, I'm like, how big is this property? She goes, I think it's about 7 to 9 acres. I said, wow. And he's willing to give this up. He says, yeah, the building, he'll probably give it for about $1. The office building.
$1?
Yeah.
$1?
Yeah.
That's in $4 Okay.
She says what he's really selling is the house. Okay. That's what he's really selling is the house, but he wants to throw the building in as well.
Why anyway, long get rid of stuff?
Yeah, he was just get rid of stuff. The sheds, everything, he was just leaving it alone. He left all his tools in. He says, he met me. He says, listen, you guys can have it all. You guys can have it all. I was really going to keep the building because he was an electrician. He also owned a cell phone shop. That's what the building was for. And he had a big business out here, and the office building was his place. And he says, I'm just giving it up. I'm giving it all up. You guys can have it all. Make me an offer, and whatever your offer is, we'll go for it. We'll go for it. So the Holy Spirit said, you know what? You want to make him an offer that can keep a friendship. I said, for everything, I said, we just give you $400K. Just like that. Because the house and all, it was more than that. It was a whole lot more than that. He says, yeah, you know what? Let's just go with it. Because the 2,500 square foot building that we have, he's selling that piece. That alone was over $250,000. So it was going to be. It was a lot of money that this house was for. It was way above our thing. And my wife goes, babe, what about our land? Why don't we just? I said, babe, the land is already paid for. We paid cash for that. We ain't got to worry about that. That's there. But this is assets. This is assets, right? We coming in with things. So we don't, and she looked around, and I'm going to tell you something, man. God literally blessed us. When we went to the bank, I said, listen, I told my wife, listen, if we go to the bank and the bank denies us, it's not for us. We called the bank. The bank not only approved us, the bank the same day went from approving us to, what you call that? Just before you close, skipping me. Just before you close, you go to this, the second phase, underwriting.
Underwriting, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they approved us the same day, and in the same day took us to underwriting. Okay. Normally, you don't go to underwriting until you're about to close. So we went straight from approval, the day of approval, over the phone. She goes, I can just send you guys straight to underwriting. Straight to underwriting. She says this would be a blessing to you guys, because by the time you come to closing, all that is done. All you got to do is just go to closing, and you've already paid your closing fees, and everything's already done, and the owner's going to do this for you, and that all of that was taken care of.
Gotcha.
I'm going to tell you something. God opened up all kinds of doors. I mean, I can't even tell you all of the things that we went through, that God has, the people he put in front of us from 2016 to 2021, everybody he put in front of us, guys, that I met before we even moved out here, was for the purpose of when we do move out here, it was the same people that I was able to call upon.
Amen.
Yep.
So
Amen.
My testimony is much the same, brother.
Yeah.
Even though we had a long wait. We didn't. Our loan took a long time,
right?
And we're kind of being tested. And I'm praying to God, like, Lord, if this is not for us, don't let the loan go through.
Right.
Yeah.
So we wanted to be back on it. But we actually didn't close on the property to a month after we got married. But it came through in its time. You know
in its time, right?
It came through in its time. And like I said, the same thing. The man who owned the property, they were an older couple. They wanted to move to the subdivision and be between their grandkids and his mother-in-law. And so he was like, I don't need any of this stuff. You can have it, so on and so forth. So we got to understand that it is God who is moving us forward, and God has things in place.
Wow.
And it's funny, I got another piece of property in Tennessee too, that I'm for this one. I own a third of 100 acres up there. So same thing. It's like very similar circumstances.
That's a good 30 acres.
I know, right? So
you were saying what, Marcus?
Now looking at stories like that, God did. I think for everybody who moves, God does something special.
Yeah.
So my dad had passed away. Now I'm in this, it's time to take care of the ministry. We're still in Birmingham. And so for 2 years, I went back and forth to, came up here to Tennessee and go back home on the weekends. Mom was up here by herself. So I would come up here and be with her every day, just help her around the house, get things solidified, things that needed fixing, attending to. So I was doing that and looking over the ministry stuff and just trying to get my feet wet. And then go back home on the weekend. And after about 2 years of that, it was like, listen, this is too much. It's too much. We got to go to Tennessee. Now, my wife had a big job and I had a business doing IT work and all of that. But I'm like, God had already told me to shut that down. And I'm like, we got to go to Tennessee. So we got serious about finding a builder and somebody to build a house. And we were going through that whole thing. That's a whole nother story. But here's something that the Lord just used as confirmation. Now, my wife had surgery on her knee, right? And so she was supposed to, be off for a little bit and go back to work. And the doctor kept writing her off. And she kept saying, are you sure? Like, I'm supposed to be back at work. He's like, no, you need a little more time. So she was off for quite a little bit. And in the midst of that, we had gotten really serious, got this builder and got a loan and figured all that out. And then we had a trip come up to go to England. I had to go and speak in England. And so right before we left, we were in a mad dash to get the house ready for the realtor to come and take pictures of it so we could put it up for sale. Well, we trying to get ready to go to England. I'm trying to prepare messages, and we trying to clean the house, and it's coming together, but it's coming real slow. And one day, the realtor came and she said, "Listen, this is what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go room by room. So just take all the stuff out of the room that you don't want to be seen. Take it all out, put it in the hallway, put it downstairs. I don't care where you put it. Let me take the pictures of that room." We did that for every room in the house, all the way downstairs. Everything looked pristine, but the junk and all that was in the hallway and downstairs. That's how she took the pictures, right? A few days before we actually left, we got everything, cleaned out, house ready to go. Right before we left, I was feeling like the Lord was going to do something special. We got on the plane, and she was supposed to be back at work. She was still off because the doctor just kept writing her off, and we kept trying to say, "Hey, listen, we don't want to defraud the insurance company. We don't want to do nothing strange." He's like, "Ah, it's fine. You need to take off. Or you're not ready yet." So she was off, foot still in a cast and all that stuff. We get on a plane and go to England. I'm over there doing a week of prayer. 7 days after being gone, we were praying, not knowing what's going to happen. The house sold while we were gone doing God's work.
Wow.
And the lady who wanted to buy it said, "Look," she didn't even want to negotiate. She said, "I will pay all the fees, all of the things." We didn't even get a chance to say, "Listen, we'll pay closing costs." She said, "I'll take care of closing costs." She didn't want to negotiate. She just said, "I want the house."
Wow.
So while we were gone, we get a call at a strange hour in England because we're not on the same time.
Of course.
Yeah, and so we answer the phone. "Hello?" She's like, "Oh, it's someone." We're like, "Oh." She said, "Just want you to know the lady wants to buy the house. She wants to take care of closing costs. She don't want to negotiate. So you get your full asking price and all of that." We're like,
Wow.
"What?" While we were gone.
Amazing.
So we got the house ready just before we left. 7 days later, it was sold.
And you had to pick up on all that stuff and pack up real quick because they want the house right away.
So we called a moving company. They came and picked everything up, took it to storage. We got up here when the house was finished being built. Then they brought everything out. But what I'm saying is, everybody has a story.
Everybody has a story.
There was a whole lot of stuff going on at Barbara's job with Lois saying, "Listen, I've called you in the ministry, but I'm gonna help you out." Before we actually got the call, before Dad even passed away, a whole year before that, God set things in motion where she would be ready to leave her job right on time. So the stories abound, and I'm just listening to both you guys' stories. There's lots of things that's not even being said. How the Lord just walked it down, opened the doors, and in most cases took the hinges off the doors and said, "Go forward." And so that's really encouraging.
One of the things I want to touch on is, now that we're in the country, what are some of the pros and cons you guys have experienced being here? And it could be, I guess, from, getting the house prepared or garden, or just what the work that has to be done, right? Because it never stops. It just never stops. You wake up, you look outside, it's like, I got to go take care of that, right? So what are the pros and cons that you guys have experienced since being in the country?
I mean, for me, I will say I only see pros, to be honest. The only cons I have are, if I would call it that, is there's just certain conveniences in the city that just aren't in the country close by. If you got a particular grocery store you like to go to, and this is more for my wife, she likes Publix. Well, Publix not close to us.
Right.
So you're going to have to plan to go there. Whole Foods and things of those types of stores you like to go to, they're not close by. So you got to plan to go to those. There's no major hospital close by. There's a little regional hospital if you got, something going on. But if you got something serious, if you go to a regional hospital, they're fixing to transport you to a bigger hospital somewhere else.
Right.
So I would say some of those things are cons if I had to just point at something. But it really is just an adjustment. So instead of going to the grocery store every single week. You just start buying your groceries in a way that you don't have to do that every week. You plan to go on this day, and you don't plan to go again for another 2-3 weeks. Um, growing the garden, like I said, for us, it was more of a learning curve for my wife. I was already used to having a garden. So moving back to the country, I could only see pros, not a lot of cons necessarily. Just more of a transition of this is how we have to do things. So instead, like I said, instead of going to the store or instead of going to do this particular thing, you have to plan for it.
Right.
But not a lot of the only thing that was something that I always joke about to people. I'm the type of person, I like to get on something and finish it and then move on to the next thing. Moving to the country taught me the work is never finished.
Yeah.
You just keep working.
That's the truth, man.
So, so all of the people who've been in the country for a while, my dad, Brother Bridges, all the other people I was talking to, I said, that's the one thing y'all never told me, that the work is never finished. You have to just keep working. And so that was the only real adjustment for me is, man, you just have to get used to certain things are just a work in progress. And it will be that until,
Right. How about you, Elder Sykes? Are there any pros and cons of that you see?
Like Elder Mason said, there's not really cons. It's just a learning curve. You have to do it differently. You have to learn to do things yourself. So people might say that's a con. You can't just call a repair guy when something breaks down. You know what I'm saying? But really, that becomes a pro if you don't complain and you allow God to teach you what he's trying to teach you. So there's a lot of problems that happen in the country, and you have to become a problem solver. And so if you're the type of person who think you're going to come to the country and sit on the porch in a rocking chair and drink lemonade, then you're going to see a lot of you're going to see a lot of
no, sir.
But if you understand that country living is true education, then you're going to come out here and you're going to get an education. And depending on what God has for you to accomplish outside of the country, he's going to put that burden on you. So like I said, I have 2 houses. And uncanny, it seems like if something goes wrong in one house, it goes wrong in the other house at the same time. And so it's like you have to learn to deal with problems and not complain about problems. So it's like the pros are God uses the country to build you up to the person he wants you to be.
That's right.
You will see cons if you're not ready for that process. If you come out to the country just to hide or something like that, you're going to have a bad time. If you come out here just to relax, you're going to have a bad time. If you come out here for true education so that God can build you up to the person you want to be, it's going to be very. And so I've seen different people in different situations. Like you have some people who come to the country and nothing's there. They have to build from the ground up. And most of the time they actually have some type of building skills. So he puts you where you are based on what he's trying to do.
Right.
Now, a lot of people say they don't want 28 acres. I got 28 acres. And I say, fine, maybe God will give you 5 acres. But when I look at what I got, I'm saying, okay, you didn't put me out here to fail. You put me out here because you're about to give me the skills and the management skills to teach me how to take care of this. So long as you look at it as true education and God is taking you through a school, you won't have many cons. The only con I had is when we were still working in Atlanta. We had to drive all that.
You gotta make that trek.
Complaining about that.
Yeah.
I took care of that. He brought. I was gonna say, like my wife, she was working in the hospital for 25 years, and we had been doing both the preaching ministry and the health ministry for a while, and we just decided, 2019, right before COVID really hit, that maybe it's time for you to leave. And so we had kind of picked a date for January 1st. And for years, they had given her the exemption for the flu. That year, they decided she could not get the exemption.
Wow.
And they gave her to December 1st to comply, or December 31st. And they said if she doesn't comply by January 1st, she's terminated. That was the very date we had chose she was going to leave. God had already. So when she got the letter, she was like, "Look at this! Look, she's excited because it got the same date on
Right.
it that we said she was going to leave."
Right. She don't
And
have
so
to
from
quit.
that time, yeah. So from that time, we had to just move by faith. So if that could be another con when God say it's time for you to let go of the secular stuff, and now you got to depend on me. That might be a con too.
Well, depending on how the person is, yeah, that you can see from
That's what
both
I'm saying.
sides. Right.
I'm saying there. When you move in the direction God tell you to move, there is no cons. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
There's challenges, but there are no cons.
That's true. That's true.
And the challenges are there to build you up. So if you can go into it with that mindset, there is no cons. There's only pros. I've learned to be a plumber. I've learned
Yep.
to repair washing machines. I'm talking about. I'm not talking about changing our little screw. I'm talking about I had to take the washing machine apart down to the shell
And build it back
put
up.
that thing back. Yeah, same thing with the dryer. Had to take whole toilets out and learn how to put the YouTube Academy University.
Man, YouTube University has been my friend, brother. I think I graduated a couple times.
Me too. I still say I'm a plumber now. I'm a repairman. I don't do a lot of electrical work, but had an electrician come out here to rewire some stuff, and he taught me how to do some things. So yeah.
And I got my hands tied into a lot of electrical work.
Yeah, you go. I tell you what, Home Depot look different to you when you live in the country.
Home Depot and Lowe's.
Be your best friend, buddy.
I realized one day while my dad spent a lot of time, and my mother was always complaining, he's always at Home Depot. He's always at Home Depot. And now I realize, I'm like, I need one of those. That would be something, you just start realizing tools are essential.
They make all the difference.
Tools are essential.
The right tool, the job is easy.
If you have the right tools, the job is very easy, And I'm looking around saying, man, tools are essential out here,
Yeah.
And a truck is essential. A trailer is essential.
Absolutely.
Things I never really thought about in the city. I'm like, out here, this is a need. Because people call me, hey, Larry, can I use the trailer? Hey, Larry, can you help with the truck? Hey, because they don't, if you don't have that, that's an essential piece.
Yes.
Yeah. And I went out to visit Marcus because I hadn't been out to the ministry, and he was showing me all the stuff that Elder Mason built. And Marcus will tell you, my eyes is this big, my mouth is on the floor, I did all this. And I'm like, and I had a project to do at the other house, and I wanted to add on a room, and I wanted to rip up the carpet and put down new floors. And right before I did that, I came to do a recording at Apocalypse. And I'm seeing all this, and I went back home fired up.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was right before COVID hit too, I believe.
Because you're like, yo, if he can do this.
Yeah, if he could do all this.
That's what he was saying.
So, And here's the thing, Brother Larry. Before COVID hit, we had went to Home Depot, bought all the materials, all the wood. Like you said, you were looking for wood. For some reason, God said, go ahead and buy that material now.
Right, because lumber was bad. Yeah,
I bought all the lumber, had bought a case of masks, all this stuff to build with. And so when everything shut down and everything happened, I was at home doing the same thing God led me to do.
Wow.
And that's the thing I'm learning about God. If you move in harmony with Him, no matter what happens, it doesn't change what He told you to do.
Yeah, it stays steady.
Yeah.
Right? Because, when you, I was thinking about it just from a Jonah perspective. Jonah did not do what God asked him to do. God was steady in what he asked him to do. That never changed. That stayed steady. Although Jonah went through some turmoil. He went through some turmoil. But with God, it was still steady. No matter what. He went through all of that. And when he came out of when he landed, when he was beached, the purpose never changed. God said, get up and go and do what I've asked you to do. Right. So I love the way that you put it. He will give you the tools you need. And if you don't have the tools, guess what? He puts people in front of you that have it. So that was, I just want to, ask that question about pros and cons. Here's another thing. What kind of advice would you guys give to people who have this idea that they're very zealous, and I love talking to them. But they think that, the best thing for them to do is to get a place far, far, far away, as far as it can possibly get to, off grid, and live away from people, and call that country living. What kind of advice would you give those people?
Well, there's several things that you said there. You know what I'm saying? Why do you not want to be around any people?
Well, because like, the idea that there are people who get this idea that, country living is supposed to be a seclusive thing. Like, I don't want any distractions to take me away from what God has me to do, things of that nature. So they have this idea that, this is the way to go.
So and I get that. You want privacy.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be isolated. That's two different things.
Two different things, correct.
My property is pretty much enclosed, by trees. But my neighbor's right there, and God give me some good neighbors too. You know what I'm saying? I had a neighbor right next to me, who had blueberry trees or bushes, and he'll pick what he wants, and he'll say, I picked all I want. Come over here and get what you want. And I mean, we go and pick 10, 15 gallons of blueberries, put them in the freezer, and we'll have them all year. So he gave us good neighbors. So a lot of times, God is not trying to isolate us. Israel made that same mistake when he told them to be separate, and they isolated themselves when he actually wanted them to be the light of the world.
That's the whole point. Right.
Yeah, that's the whole point. And so with the off-grid things, the off-grid is a good idea, but I would say the same thing that Christ said. First the blade, then the ear, and the full corn in the ear. Mm-hmm. If you ain't grow up off the grid, don't move too fast. I'm saying, do you understand what that means? Do you? And that's a whole nother learning curve to whether you're gonna have solar or what you're gonna do, or if you're gonna actually do wilderness living. You know what I'm saying? Like the Amish. You know what I'm saying?
Like you ever seen this movie called The Wilderness Family?
Yeah,
they moved from L.A. and they went to like this secluded place in like the Alps of Colorado, and it's just them. They built a wood house. They have like they lived that life of the wilderness people, and they had to deal with the real bears, and they had to deal with the real wolves, and and they were getting their mail by plane, the seaplane flying over and dumping their mail in the water. And they had to go into the water to get their mail. Eventually they got a boat that was able to go out there, but they were living it, roughing it out. Okay, and there are people who can do that. I'm not saying that you don't do it, but
exactly.
The learning curve is something different. It can, after a while you can get discouraged.
The ear, then the full corn. God is merciful, and he gives us time to grow into those things. Like you said, there's some people who might be ready for that. And if that's what God is telling you, by all means. I'm not the voice of God for you. But I would say in a more general sense,
step by step.
The blade, then the ear, and then the full corn in the ear. The neighbors, let me tell you a story about one of my neighbors. God put neighbors around you sometimes
to teach you a lesson, right?
You think you're gonna be converting everybody. Sometimes they're there to teach you,
right?
And because I was living in the city, I didn't have a lot of time. But me and my wife wanted to plant some trees, and so we're going to take $1,000. We're going to plant $1,000 worth of trees. And my neighbor happened to come over while I was doing it, and he said, when you first plant those trees, you need to do something to protect them, because the deer can destroy them when they're that young. They'll eat the whole tree.
Yes, and they will.
Me and my mentality, like, I ain't got time for that. You know what I'm saying? And, God will watch out for my trees.
Shortcut.
Yeah. God will watch out for my trees. Now, God was trying to watch out for my trees when he sent my neighbor over to tell me.
That was him looking out for your trees.
You know what I'm saying? And it was almost a Job story. They destroyed every one of those trees except one.
Wow.
They destroyed see, people be out there longer than you, and they can actually help you out. So it's like, let God choose for you. That would be my advice. Make sure that you are allowing God to lead. Because those neighbors that you don't want to see, they can be the very ones that help you along the way as you're
Yeah.
trying to.
Yeah.
And I've heard many stories like where their neighbors helped them so much to adjust to that transition.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
You know, the thing I would say right off the jump for those who are like they want to get so secluded, there's nobody around, that it's even hard to hear planes go by. I mean, they just want total seclusion. Is to first, I would tell them, hey, listen, you need to study and understand why God said move to the country in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
It was not to be hid so nobody knows where you are. That we're way past the government knowing where you're. They're gonna, if you buy the property, they're gonna know you're there. Okay, even if you pay cash and don't get a loan, they know you're there. So when people say that kind of stuff to me, I immediately start addressing their fear
Yes.
of being caught in the time of trouble.
Yeah.
It's the same mindset as people have. I'm leaving the United States and I'm moving to the Dominican Republic.
Mm-hmm.
Why? What's happening here is coming there. So it may be just a little bit delayed, but it's coming wherever you are. So the reason for moving to the country, I immediately start speaking to their fears. Listen, the country is not for hiding. The country is for character building. And having neighbors, how can you ever work the city from a country outpost if you're so far away you can never make it to the city?
Right.
How are you going to warn others who live in the country if you're so far away from the closest neighbors, 10 miles away? How would you ever reach them because they're so far away? You're almost a hermit. So first of all, I just addressed the idea of why God told us to move to the country. It's for character development, and then it's to teach you how to trust Him.
Mm.
And so when I start dealing with those things, that to me starts to become that Bible study immediately at that moment to start saying, listen, don't go into this with the whole mindset of hiding. Being off the grid is a great thing, but like Brother Sykes said, listen, it's the blade, then the ear, and then the corn, then the corn in there. However that thing goes. Listen, you won't. There's only a few people that I know that have the kind of cash that can move to the country when there's nothing and stand it all up real quick because they have enough money. But even for those who do that, the real lessons in the country are character building, and God will just wait for you to spend your money to get it all set up and then say, now let me start teaching you something. You just spend all your money, you got your house, you got your road in, you got your septic done, you're off grid, everything is perfect. Now let me start teaching you some things about your character.
Man, Marcus, I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly when the storms will hit.
That's when
exactly when a
hit.
tree falls somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's when the challenges come. Because I think that's what happened to me. 2021, we moved February 21. By December 21, there was a tornado. Tornadoes don't normally come up in the mountains, but it sure passed through on my property on a Sabbath morning, wiped out some trees, landed right by the sheds. I mean, almost took the sheds out and everything. And I was like, well, there he goes. Challenge number one. That was it. And then from there, it was challenge after challenge after challenge. And my biggest challenge is I didn't know that. What I learned was the earth does its own thing.
That's right.
It does its own. You look one day, you have an open space, and the next day you look around and you go, where did all that underbrush, trees are forming? Where did that stuff come from? Yeah. And it's like, now I got to figure out how to get back there, because I really wanted to use that space for something else. And it's like it's all grown up away. It's like you can't even get back there. You got thorns and thistles, and so I mean, those are challenges, and then you get more challenges. You get floods in your house. I mean, little things that just seems annoying, but God is saying, no. I'm teaching you something.
That's right. That's right. And I'm allowing stuff to happen so that you would learn how to be a problem solver, how to have some patience, how to pray because you don't know what to do. And let me teach you some things. Let me just educate you. Let me take you to YouTube University. And sometimes the Lord says, let me just give you the thought that makes you question that you arrive at the answer. It's all of those things, the reason you move to the country. The second thing that I would challenge most people, and I don't even know if I should say this, especially people of color.
Mm-hmm.
You need to learn how to live off the land.
Yeah.
Most people are trying to move to the country, and I'm not like Brother Sykes said, I'm not going to be the voice of God to you, but a lot of people try to move to the country trying to keep their city job. And so they have this mindset of moving way, way, way out and be isolated, but I need to keep this job over here so that we can keep paying the bills, and never contemplate it's somewhere in the middle. I need to move out. The prophet gives us a description of the land. It needs to have water on it and so on, wood and trees. But then the next thing is, what am I going to do for a living?
Yep.
Well, you need to learn how to make the land work for you.
And be resourceful.
And be resourceful so that you can continue making a living and do what God says do. But if you're trying to hold on, and once again, I'm not telling people what to do. I'm not telling you to quit your job or where to go. But I'm saying these are challenges that I see happen when people start having these conversations around. They want to be isolated and away from everybody. But how do I do that and keep working? How do I do that and work the cities from the outposts? How do I do these things? And I'm like, first of all, God is not putting you out in the country to isolate you. So think about moving, and make sure wherever you are is where God wants you to be. If he wants to put you way in the boondocks, circled by trees and water, and you can only get there by airplane, well, then God will put you there. But if God wants to put you in a place where you can reach your country community, your neighbors aren't in the city right next door, they're on the next set of properties over. You got 50 acres, they got the acres on the other side of that.
Yep.
So, and then what I found the Lord is trying to teach all of us is how to be Christ-like to people who are not like you. So the neighbor over there, they're very nice people, but their lifestyles are very different. But they know way more about country living than me.
Mm-hmm.
And so God has got me in a situation where he's not going to reveal it in a vision. He's not going to let me find it on YouTube. I got to drive down the street to Jimmy's house and knock on Jimmy's door and ask Jimmy, how do I do such and such? And he's going to sound different. He's going to act different, but he has that country love of community, and he's going to come over and help you.
Right.
So I think the Lord, he puts us where we need to be. And in most of the time, it's not to be isolated from anybody. It's just to get away from the city and follow the counsel on property that you need to follow, so that God can then begin to teach you things. And one other thing I'll mention before I be quiet. I tell people, because of the lateness of the hour, most people are still trying to wait till they move to the country to start learning how to live in the country. We're so close to the end. If the Lord opens the door to get you to the country, you need to go with some knowledge you have already been getting, so that when you get there, you can begin to apply what you have been learning before you ever get there. Because it is a learning curve. If you just roll up to the country, you have no skills in country living. You have nothing. Not that God can't teach you, but to me, a good steward would be like, let me start learning, so when I get there, I can put it into practice.
That's it.
Amen. Amen.
One of the things I see, Brother Sykes, and I'm going to come to you and we got about another 5-10 minutes. But what Elder Marcus says is that the city work, people kind of want to go back to what they were doing in the city. But I want to take it a step further. I think we would like to bring the city into the country, our lifestyle, the city lifestyle that we know is kind of, I think that's what's comforting for us, is to kind of bring the city lifestyle. So, that's where the transition is slower for us. What do you think?
Yeah, it's kind of like that vision the prophet had when they were going up the mountain and they had to start shedding things one by one. And that's why I say I kind of live by that principle: first the blade, then the ear, and the full corn in the ear. And if you were fortunate enough to get out to the country early, you might bring a lot of things with you, but you're going to see that you keep getting brought into circumstances where those things have to be peeled off. And God is going to bring you into situations where those things get peeled off. And like I said, country living experience is to prepare us specifically for a time of trouble. You know what I'm saying? And all the troubles that we go through in the country, again, is to teach you how to keep moving through trouble. So he has to have some people prepared who are used to daily solving problems and going through trouble and not losing their head. So when there's a trouble in all the world, that he has children who haven't had that experience that can look to you for leadership.
Right.
And so that's what I've seen out here in the country. It's like, I'm also leading out in the church. And it's like, if you can't handle these problems, on your property, how are you going to have problems that come with eternal weight of souls? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you got to learn to be able to roll with the punches. And a lot of that's going to be sacrifice. You're not going to be able to do things the same way all the time. God is merciful if you follow him step by step, that it won't be as abrupt in a change for you. But if you are procrastinating, because that's another thing. Some people are procrastinating. They got the resources, they know the call, but they're waiting for, I guess, something major to happen in the world before they actually take
bright lights in the skies that says you need to go.
Go now.
Yeah.
But like Marcus said, same with the children of Israel. You need to have your staff in your hand and your shoes on your feet. You know what I'm saying? And what he described is a way of doing that. Learn how to grow something in pots wherever you are. Whatever you can do to prepare yourself for moving to the country, make sure you're doing that. And especially now, all the things that are happening in politics, and I know this is not necessarily our focus, but it's my thought that Trump is going to be successful and prosperous for a minute. And so what we may find is there's going to be a quick window that's open of prosperity for people to make it to the country. And that's why I say you need to have your staff in your hand and your shoes on your feet. If God has put it in your heart to move into the country, now is the time to get yourself ready. Sell off what you can. Get rid of anything you don't need. Buy stuff that you do need. Like we were talking about tools and all these things. Ask people who live in the country what things they needed that they didn't have when they came here. So you can start investing in those things. Trade some of those things that you don't need to buy the things that you do need. But I would say to anybody right now, be ready with your staff in your hand and your shoes on your feet. Understand you live in is challenging to prepare you for a time of trouble. And so as I go through each trouble on my property, that's what I realize. God is preparing me for a time of trouble. And we can't be the type of people who lose our head because all the world is falling down around us. At that time, we really have to be leaders to help people who haven't got that foundation laid. So, that's what I would say. And like I said, with everything you do when you come to the country, just take it step by step. Even gardening. When I first came out here, I tried to have this big garden. I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready for that. And what God told me was section off a small space and then increase that space each year.
Right.
So just take it first the blade, then the ear, full corn in the ear. And be ready with your staff in your hand and your shoes on your feet.
That's how you go, man. Marcus, you want to get that final thought in there?
I just would say, listen, it's high time to awake out of sleep. We say this when we're preaching and teaching. I like the analogy that Brother Sykes just gave about staff in hand,
shoes on your feet.
You're girded and you're ready to go at a moment's notice. And Brother Bridges used to give the same analogy in a different way: pack and pray. Don't delay. And so in other words, you're bending every energy to be ready to move when God says go. And so, moving to the country is necessary. The big thing about moving to the country is character development. And God is ready to get all of us into his classroom where he can start teaching us many things we need to know about ourselves, teaching us things we need to know how to survive, how to depend on him. And so I just would encourage people, two things. We're talking about moving to the country. So do all you can to prepare to move to the country so that when God says go, you can go. But above all you do, get to know Jesus for yourself. And so whatever he speaks to you, however he wants you to move, you can hear it and know what to do.
Amen, man. I just want to thank you, brothers. Because again, like I said, so many people, direction is what they want, and they don't really get it out of direction. But they really want to get out. And I get a lot of, text messages, emails, people communicate and let me know, hey, what are the ways? How do I do? Where do I go? And so this is what the Lord placed upon this on my heart. Just talk to other people that have been there, and let them hear, the practical, not like some, I would say country living seminars like the ones that came over to you, Elder Sykes, when you was back in 2000. Those are great because we got the DVDs, and we used to go to bed. Before we go to bed, we used to watch those DVDs, my wife and I. I would spend hours on YouTube watching stuff on country living. Hours. I spent a lot of time doing that, and just kind of daydreaming. Like putting myself in that position already. I'm already out there. Like, what do I need? And writing stuff down. I used to write a lot. And those are the little steps that I took to help me get to where we are right now. So I would say the same thing. Always be ready at a moment's notice. Pack, pray, and don't be like Lot's wife and delay. When God says go, don't turn around, because when you do turn around, you end up going back to where you didn't want to come back from, where you came from. So I want to thank you guys. Thank you so much, Elder Sykes, Elder Marcus Mason, for joining us here on Mount Carmel Ministries, and putting together our first country living discussion podcast seminar. And we're looking forward to do some more and to take it from there. I do appreciate you guys, man. We're gonna call it a close and adjourn this, and hopefully we'll see you guys again.
Sounds good. Amen.
Thanks a lot, guys. God bless y'all.
All right.